For centuries, the spices and riches of the East held a powerful allure for Europeans. Pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. These were the treasures that fueled dreams and built empires. The East, with its silks and jewels, its exotic scents and flavors, seemed a world away. The journey was long, arduous, and fraught with danger. The cost of transporting goods across these vast distances was exorbitant. This made the spices and silks of the East a luxury few could afford. Among those who dared to dream of a sea route to the Indies was a Portuguese explorer named Vasco da Gama. His name would forever be etched in the annals of history. Vasco da Gama's voyages to India were not merely journeys of exploration, but bold acts of courage and ambition. Vasco da Gama's voyages were inspired by the Renaissance's quest for knowledge and discovery. Portugal, a small nation on Europe's western edge, led the charge in this new age of exploration. Prince Henry the Navigator, a forward-thinking leader, founded a navigation school in Sagres. His ambition was to discover a sea route to the east, avoiding the land routes dominated by Arabs and Venetians. These pioneering efforts paved the way for Vasco da Gama's groundbreaking voyages. Vasco da Gama was born in the ancient town of Sines, Portugal, around the year 1469. Sines, a modest port town perched on the Atlantic coast, was steeped in maritime traditions. The crashing waves and salty air were constant reminders of the sea's presence. The stories of fishermen returning from distant waters with their catches sparked young Vasco's curiosity. Growing up in such an environment, Vasco da Gama was naturally drawn to the sea. He dreamed of the legends of distant lands and the adventures that awaited beyond the horizon. Vasco da Gama hailed from a family deeply entrenched in the Portuguese nobility. His father, Estevão da Gama, held the esteemed position of alcaide-mor of Sines, a role akin to a mayor or governor. Vasco da Gama's mother, Isabel Sodré, belonged to a family with strong English connections. Growing up, he was surrounded by stories of maritime exploits and distant lands. This environment fostered in him a curiosity and a desire to explore the world beyond Portugal's shores. While the specifics of Vasco da Gama's early education are lost to history, it is widely accepted that he received an education suitable for his noble birth. The young Vasco da Gama was irresistibly drawn to the sea. He longed for the challenges and triumphs that awaited those who ventured into the unknown and pushed the boundaries of human endurance. This quest for adventure, along with his family's influence and his own abilities, would catapult Vasco da Gama onto the global stage. The successful completion of Bartolomeu Dias's voyage around the Cape of Good Hope in 1488 sparked a new era of exploration in Portugal. King John II saw the immense potential of establishing a direct sea route to India. Vasco da Gama, a young man of proven courage and ambition, was selected by the king to lead this daring and potentially lucrative expedition. The mission given to da Gama was monumental, carrying the hopes of Portugal's aspirations for wealth and dominance. Da Gama approached the challenge with unwavering determination and meticulous planning. Preparations for the expedition were extensive and fraught with challenges. The ships commissioned for the voyage, the São Gabriel, the São Rafael, and the Berrio, were specially designed for the long and perilous journey ahead. Manning the ships was a carefully selected crew of experienced sailors, navigators, cartographers, and soldiers, each chosen for their specialized skills and unwavering courage. Among them were seasoned navigators like Pero de Alenquer and João de Coimbra, veterans of previous expeditions down the African coast. Weaponry, including cannons, muskets, and crossbows, were brought aboard, a testament to the very real dangers that awaited them in uncharted waters. On July 8, 1497, under a sky heavy with anticipation, Vasco da Gama's fleet departed from Lisbon's bustling harbour. The air crackled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation as the ships, their sails billowing in the wind, embarked on a journey into uncharted waters. Da Gama, a stern figure clad in the finery of a Portuguese nobleman, stood on the deck of the São Gabriel, his flagship. He carried with him the hopes of a nation eager for new trade routes and the legacy of explorers who had dared to dream before him. Instead of adhering to the familiar route along the African coast, Da Gama made a bold and calculated decision to take a longer, more challenging path. He directed his fleet southwest into the open Atlantic, utilizing the prevailing winds and currents to guide his ships towards the Cape of Good Hope. This unconventional route, later known as the Volta do Mar or Return of the Sea, was crucial to the expedition's success. This strategic choice highlighted Da Gama's grasp of both practical seafaring and the latest advancements in navigation. Rounding the Cape of Good Hope proved to be a formidable challenge, testing the limits of both the ships and the crew's endurance. They battled fierce storms that threatened to rip the ships apart, the waves towering over them like watery mountains. Scurvy, the silent killer of sailors, began to spread through the ranks, weakening the crew and claiming lives. Landing on the African coast provided some respite, allowing the crew to replenish their dwindling supplies of fresh water and provisions. However, their interactions with the indigenous populations were often strained, marked by misunderstandings and mistrust. Vasco da Gama's triumphant return to Portugal in 1499, laden with spices and tales of the East, sparked a wave of national euphoria. King Manuel I, eager to capitalize on da Gama's success, swiftly commissioned a second expedition, this time with a clear mandate: establish Portuguese dominance in the Indian Ocean. In 1502, da Gama set sail once more, commanding a formidable fleet of 20 heavily armed ships. This time, there was no pretense of peaceful exploration. Da Gama was tasked with crushing any resistance to Portuguese ambitions, by force if necessary. His arrival in India was met with resistance from the Arab merchants who controlled the spice trade. Da Gama, ruthless and determined, responded with overwhelming force, bombarding coastal cities and engaging in brutal naval battles. His actions sent a clear message: Portugal was a force to be reckoned with, willing to use violence to secure its interests. Da Gama's second voyage, though marked by violence and brutality, established a crucial Portuguese presence in the Indian Ocean. For 2 decades, he remained in Portugal, advising the king on matters relating to India and overseeing the creation of fortified trading posts along the African coast. By 1524, the situation in India had worsened. King John III, eager to restore order and assert Portuguese dominance, turned once more to the experienced Vasco da Gama. Appointed Viceroy of India, da Gama embarked on his third and final voyage to the east. Upon his arrival in India, da Gama swiftly moved to consolidate Portuguese power, implementing strict measures to curb corruption and strengthen fortifications. Vasco da Gama embarked on his third and final voyage to India with high hopes. However, just 3 months after his arrival, he fell ill and passed away in Cochin on Christmas Eve, 1524. His passing marked the end of an era, closing the chapter on the man who had opened the doors to the east for Portugal. Despite his often ruthless methods, Vasco da Gama's influence on history is undeniable. His expeditions had lasting consequences, reshaping global trade routes and altering the balance of power between East and West. In 1539, his remains were exhumed and returned to Portugal, where he was laid to rest in Vidigueira. Section 1. A legacy forged in spice and steel. Vasco da Gama's voyages to the East were not mere footnotes in the annals of exploration. They were seismic events that reverberated across the globe, irrevocably altering the course of history. His successful navigation of the Cape of Good Hope shattered the geographical barriers that had long separated East and West, ushering in a new era of global trade and interconnectedness. The spices that had once been the exclusive domain of Eastern merchants began to flow into Europe in unprecedented quantities, transforming tastes and fueling economies. Da Gama's voyages also laid the foundation for Portugal's rise as a global power. The establishment of trading posts and colonies along the African coast and in India, secured through a combination of diplomacy and brute force, transformed Portugal into a maritime empire. The wealth generated by the spice trade fueled Portuguese ambitions, financing further expeditions and patronizing the arts. However, this newfound prosperity came at a heavy cost, extracted through the exploitation of colonized peoples and the imposition of Portuguese culture and religion. The impact of da Gama's voyages extended far beyond the economic and political spheres. His encounters with diverse cultures along the African coast and in India, though often marked by misunderstanding and conflict, exposed Europeans to new languages and customs. This exchange, though often unequal and fraught with tension, contributed to a gradual broadening of European perspectives on the wider world. Section 2. Remembering da Gama. Hero or villain? Vasco da Gama's legacy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of exploration, conquest, and cultural exchange. In Portugal, he is revered as a national hero, his name synonymous with courage and the spirit of discovery. Statues and monuments throughout the country celebrate his achievements. His likeness adorns postage stamps and currency. His voyages are a source of national pride, a testament to Portugal's role in shaping the modern world. However, in many parts of the world, particularly in those regions once subject to Portuguese colonialism, da Gama's legacy is viewed with ambivalence. His voyages, while celebrated for their navigational achievements, are also remembered for ushering in an era of exploitation and cultural subjugation. The violence he employed to secure Portuguese interests continues to cast a long shadow over his legacy. The debate over how to reconcile da Gama's achievements with the brutality that often accompanied his voyages is ongoing. Some argue that judging historical figures by contemporary standards is anachronistic, that da Gama was a product of his time. Others contend that acknowledging the full scope of his impact is essential for a nuanced understanding of history. Regardless of where one stands, Vasco da Gama's enduring legacy is a reminder that history is rarely black and white, but rather a complex tapestry woven from triumphs and tragedies. A sea change in history. Vasco da Gama's voyages opened new pathways for global interaction. His journey around the Cape of Good Hope symbolized the breaking down of geographical barriers. His influence on global trade and cultural exchange was profound. Da Gama's expeditions highlight the interconnectedness of our world. His story embodies the human spirit of exploration and discovery. His legacy continues to inspire debate and reflection. Studying his life reveals the forces that have shaped our modern world. His story underscores the complexities and costs of progress. Da Gama's voyages resonate today, emphasizing human curiosity and the far-reaching impact of exploration.